You're traveling through the unknown, a journey beyond the corners of reality, where the shadows whisper and the chill runs deep. Welcome to the dimension where your deepest fears are given form. This is The Midnight Mystery.
Welcome to The Midnight Mystery. This episode is called, I Uncovered the Truth Behind Project Luna. In each episode, we delve into the shadowed corners of our existence, bringing you tales of the eerie, the uncanny, and the downright terrifying. From the realms of the supernatural to the depths of the human psyche, no stone is left unturned, no dark secret left hidden. As the clock once again draws near midnight, prepare to embark on another adventure into the uncanny, the eerie, the horrifying, the midnight mystery. I stood in front of the dimly lit conference room, the cold air humming with the low murmur of the ventilation system. Project Luna was an underground fortress, encased in several feet of reinforced concrete and a network of electronic surveillance that would make a prison warden envious. I adjusted my glasses and looked at the faces around me. Scientists, security personnel, and a few bureaucrats who would never admit they were fascinated by the macabre. All right, let's get started. As you all know, Project Luna has successfully captured what we are designating as Subject L1, a supposed werewolf, I announced, clicking the remote to switch the presentation screen to a video feed of the creature. It snarled, bared its teeth, and lunged futilely at the containment glass. A wave of whispers washed over the room, turning into a quiet murmur of awe and trepidation. "Is that a real werewolf?" Dr. Sarah Thompson from the genetics department blurted out. "As real as it gets," I replied. "We've run initial tests, and let's just say its DNA doesn't match any known species." "What are the containment protocols?" John, the head of security, cut in. "We're using electrified barriers, reinforced steel cages, and enough tranquilizers to sedate a small army," I replied. "Additionally, the entire section is isolated, with separate air ventilation and controlled entry." "Let's talk worst-case scenarios then," John pressed. "If containment fails, the entire sector locks down automatically. We'll also have guards equipped with silver bullets." A loud chuckle erupted from the back. "Silver bullets? What's next? Garlic and holy water." I fixed my eyes on Martin, one of the youngest techs in the monitoring team. "No. We save those for the vampires in Project Nightshade," I said dryly. "But for this one, folklore and initial lab tests agree. Silver is effective, so we're sticking with it." The room fell silent for a moment. "Any other questions?" "If we're so confident in our containment, why the briefing?" Sarah asked, narrowing her eyes. "Because confidence has no room in scientific rigor. We prepare for the worst, so we're not caught unprepared. Subject L1 is unlike any specimen we've ever had, and there's much we don't understand about its capabilities or behavior," I explained. "As you were saying about folklore," Sarah said, "does it also say they travel in packs?" "I'm well aware of the myths," I sighed, "but we've found no evidence of other werewolves." As if on cue, the room's lights flickered momentarily, a brief lapse that unsettled the room. I shrugged it off. "Let's focus on the task at hand," I concluded. "This is groundbreaking research, but it's also risky. Be alert, be cautious, and follow the protocols. We're stepping into uncharted territory here." After the briefing, I made my way to the containment sector. This was the high-security area of Project Luna, where Subject L1 resided. The walkways were dimly lit, the air cool and slightly damp. As I approached the viewing window, the werewolf, our mythical creature turned all too real nightmare, was pacing back and forth in its cell. Even behind the reinforced glass, the tension emanating from the beast was palpable. "Any behavioral changes?" I asked Dr. Emily Larson, who was standing by the control panel. Her eyes locked onto the screens monitoring the creature's vitals. "Agitated. More than usual," she replied. "You saw the presentation. People are nervous. I can't help but think it senses that. Or it senses the moon cycle. It's almost a full moon," I said, gazing at the snarling creature. "Look, Emily, we need to expedite the tests. There are things we don't know and gaps we need to fill before—" "The ethics, Nathan," she cut me off. "This is a sentient being. What gives us the right to—" "What gives it the right to kill?" I countered. "You've seen the reports. Subject L1 is lethal." Our aim is to understand, not to exterminate, Emily insisted. Who knows what we might learn from it? Medicinal cures, biological advances, or a quicker way to die, I said, just as the lights flickered and went out, plunging the complex into total darkness. Damn it! What now? Emily muttered. Emergency lights should kick in any second, I said, reaching for my radio. But before I could switch it on, the ear-piercing sound of alarms filled the air. Red emergency lights flashed on, bathing the room in a disturbing crimson glow. Containment breach, Emily said, her voice laced with dread as she checked the panel. It's subject L1. The cell's compromised. I grabbed the radio. All units, this is Dr. Hale. We have a containment breach in Sector C. Initiate lockdown procedures immediately. What do we do now? Emily asked, her eyes wide with fear. We have to secure the lab. Come on, I said, grabbing a case from the wall containing tranquilizer darts and a gun loaded with silver bullets. We stepped into the corridor, locking the control room behind us. The alarms continued to blare, each wail echoing the grim reality that our worst-case scenario had come to pass. Subject L1 was loose. The corridors were a labyrinth of darkness and uncertainty, lit only by the intermittent flashes of red emergency lights. My grip tightened on the tranquilizer gun, its weight a grim reminder of the task ahead. We had reached the central command hub where John, the head of security, was frantically coordinating containment efforts. Status report, John, I barked. Perimeter lockdown failed. The damn thing's in the ventilation system, bypassing our defenses, he answered, his eyes narrowing. We lost contact with Bravo team. Last transmission indicated they were engaging subject L1. Engaging? They should have waited for my orders, I snapped. We didn't have the luxury of time, Hale. You know that, he retorted. A crackling noise erupted from the radios, followed by a distorted voice. Alpha to Central, come in. We've located Bravo team. Go ahead, Alpha, John commanded. It's a bloodbath. No survivors. They got off a couple of shots, but there's no sign of the creature, came the gut-wrenching reply. Silence enveloped the room, each of us contemplating the gruesome reality. If a security team armed to the teeth couldn't handle this, what chance did we have? Initiate Code Black, I said, a code for the worst-case scenario. Seal off sections one by one and get everyone to the safe rooms. Distribute weapons and inform all staff to be prepared for lethal engagement. Understood, John nodded, flipping switches and relaying orders through the communication system. As the containment measures went into full swing, Emily leaned in. Nathan. Some of the staff reported seeing something else. They say it's smaller, different from subject L1. I need evidence, not ghost stories, I growled. But what if L1 was not the only one? What if it called for help? Emily pressed, her voice tinged with desperation. I glanced at the ventilation shafts above us. A chilling thought crept into my mind. We had assumed subject L1 was alone, but what if it wasn't? Do you hear that? John interrupted my thoughts, his hand cupping his ear. We all froze, straining our ears. There it was, a soft, guttural growl, but it wasn't coming from just one direction. It was as though the walls themselves were alive, resonating with a noise that was not entirely animalistic, nor entirely human. It can't be, Emily gasped. Initiate a thermal scan, I ordered. The screen flickered to life, displaying multiple heat signatures, some in the vents, some in the corridors, some disturbingly close to the safe rooms. We're not alone, I whispered, the reality sinking in like a blade. We were not the hunters in this underground maze. We were the prey. A sense of dread hung over me as I rummaged through stacks of old files and research papers in my office. In my haste to understand the genetics and biology of subject L1, I had glossed over the behavioral studies section. I found what I was dreading, a research paper suggesting werewolves operate on a hive or pack mentality. I had to stifle a gasp as I read the implications. We had naively disrupted a pack by capturing subject L1. It was never alone. It was a scout, an emissary, or worse, a lure. I rushed back to the command hub, where John and Emily were coordinating another containment attempt. I've made a terrible oversight, I began, showing them the paper. Werewolves are pack animals. We've agitated a hive. John looked at me, his eyes widening. Are you saying there's more of them down here? Precisely, and I think they've been here for some time, well before the capture of Subject L1. We have to find out where they're hiding. A tech from the monitoring team chimed in. Dr. Hale, we've detected some structural anomalies in the south sector, areas that don't match the original blueprints. Could they be connected? Only one way to find out, I muttered. Armed with rifles, silver bullets, and a chilling sense of foreboding, we made our way to the south sector. The walls seemed to close in on us, and the sounds of distant growling echoed from the dark recesses of the underground facility. We found the anomaly, a concealed door, nearly indistinguishable from the surrounding walls. Never even knew this was here, John whispered. Neither did we, I replied, pushing the door open. We stepped into a chamber filled with scratches, markings, and remnants of what looked like animal nests. But what caught my eye were the human lab coats and ID badges strewn around. Vestiges of missing personnel from months, perhaps years, ago. Before we could absorb the gravity of the situation, a guttural growl echoed from behind. We turned just in time to see two werewolves leap from the shadows. The security team opened fire, silver bullets tearing through the air. One creature fell, but not before slashing through two security officers, reducing them to lifeless heaps on the ground. The other lunged at John, tearing him away into the darkness. "We have to fall back now!" Emily yelled, her voice tinged with uncharacteristic terror. With our numbers dwindling and the realization that we were facing a pack of werewolves sinking in, desperation took hold. In the command hub, the remaining survivors gathered around me, their faces etched with fear and determination. "We can't wait for rescue that might not come," I said, my voice steady despite the chow surrounding us. "We need to take control of the situation." Emily spoke up, her voice shaking only slightly. "And how do we do that?" "We know they're drawn to the scent of blood and sound," I replied. "We have one chance. We set a trap, lure them into containment chambers, and manually activated the fields. We'll seal them off one by one." A security officer named Rodriguez looked skeptical. "And how do we lure them? We can't just use ourselves as bait." I hesitated for a moment, my mind racing to find a solution that didn't involve more lives lost. "We use the corpses of their fallen pack members. We find the bodies of the ones we've killed and strategically place them around the chambers." Silence hung heavy in the air, the idea of manipulating the dead into a macabre trap sinking in. "Agreed," Emily finally said, her eyes locked onto mine. "We'll do whatever it takes." As we set the trap in motion, the minutes stretched like hours. The scent of death lingered in the air, mingling with the fear and tension that gripped us all. Finally, the time came to activate the chambers one by one, hoping that the werewolves would take the bait. One by one, the chambers were sealed off, and we held our breath, waiting for the sounds of snarls and howls. It was a tense and horrifying symphony, each metallic clang of a containment field reverberating like a death knell. But amidst the chaos, a series of screams broke through. The werewolves had taken the bait, and the agonizing cries echoed in the cold, sterile corridors. I clenched my fists, pushing down the guilt that threatened to consume me. Sacrifices were necessary, but the cost weighed heavily. As the last chamber sealed off, we realized we had succeeded. The creatures were contained, but our victory was a bitter one. The twisted reality of our situation hit me once more, and I knew there was something deeper at play. I returned to my office, poring over the old research once more. And there it was, a file buried beneath layers of secrecy. The truth was horrifying. The werewolves weren't just beasts. They were the remnants of a government experiment, a project meant to create super soldiers through genetic manipulation. The initial aim had been power, dominance, and control. The project had spiraled out of control, resulting in the creation of these monstrous creatures. The government had abandoned the project, believing the subjects terminated. But they had survived, evolving into a pack with a thirst for blood and vengeance. The revelation churned in my stomach as I realized that the horrors we faced were not just an accident, but the result of human arrogance and ambition. I shared the information with Emily, and as the truth settled over us, a sense of grim determination took hold. With a heavy heart, we initiated the containment fields. As the chambers lit up, locking the creatures away, a feeling of accomplishment mingled with sorrow. But our ordeal was far from over. I stepped back from the control panel, ready to join the others in the safe room. But as the containment fields came up, a chilling realization struck me. A werewolf was in the control room with me. I turned, my heart racing, and there it was, the same creature that had been lurking in the shadows. Its eyes glowed in the dim light, and a sinister grin spread across its snout. My own heartbeats echoed in my ears as I remembered a detail I had overlooked. During the final confrontation, I had been scratched by one of the creatures. I felt a searing pain on my arm, the wound now infected with their curse. I looked at the monitor, and the moonlight streaming in illuminated my eyes. The transformation was beginning, not into a mindless beast, but into something more. My intellect remained intact, but now I was a part of the pack, driven by instincts both primal and heightened. As the moonlight bathed the room in an eerie glow, I glanced at the monitor displaying the outside world. My eyes, now reflecting the malevolent gleam of the moon, held the knowledge of what lay beyond the underground confines. The horrific truth was clear. I was the newest member of the pack, a pack that had infiltrated far beyond the lab's walls, now possessing an elevated consciousness. And in that moment, the cycle continued, a twisted legacy of humanity's hubris and a fate I couldn't escape. I hope you enjoyed our episode. I'd like to extend a heartfelt thanks to you, our brave listeners. Your presence in this shared journey into the unknown is what fuels our stories. Your fascination is our motivation. Did this episode send chills down your spine? Then leave your comments, your thoughts and theories, your own midnight mysteries. Your feedback is the beacon that guides us through the uncharted territories of our stories. And if you haven't already, remember to subscribe to our channel. By joining the Midnight Mystery family, you won't miss out on a single chilling tale. As a subscriber, you'll be the first to know when a new episode lurks around the corner, ready to pull you back into the shadowy depths of the unknown. This is the Midnight Mystery signing off, leaving you with a simple reminder. When the clock strikes 12, fear the silence, for that's when our tales come to life. Good night, Midnight listeners, and remember, not all who wander into the dark are lost.